Hello everyone. For those who forgot Attack on Titan and for those who want to remember, in this video we will talk about the origin of the giants. We will summarize in this video how the first giant and subsequent giants were formed. We wish you a good time. It all started about 2,000 years before the events of the Anim, when there were no giants in the world and a benevolent little girl named Ymir lived a quiet life in her village. One day Ymir's village was invaded by a barbaric tribe called Eldia. The Eldia tribe burned down the village, killed most of the people and took the rest as slaves. The Eldia tribe cut out the tongues of the slaves they took. That is why Ymir could not speak. One day the lid of one of the pig pens was left open and the pigs inside escaped. Learning this and getting angry, the tribal chief demanded to know which slave had kidnapped the pigs. All the other slaves, who were mute, pointed their hands at Ymir and blamed him. Ymir, who could not defend himself in any way because he could not speak, had to take the blame. The chief of the Eldia tribe told him he was free and to flee into the forest, so he sent hunters after him, helpless and wounded. Ymir fled from them and had just given up hope when he came across a huge tree unlike any other tree in the forest. Entering the wide hollow of this tree, which was like the mouth of a cave, Ymir fell into a deep hole in the tree and found himself in a puddle of water, just when he thought it was the end for him. A strange underwater creature approached Ymir. This shiny spine-like creature clung to Ymir's back and unleashed a tremendous force and explosion. The hunters, who had been tracking Ymir, were shocked by what they saw. A giant form, even bigger than that huge tree. Now the first giant had appeared, and from now on the course of history would change. Despite having such incredible power, Ymir did not destroy the Eldia tribe, but instead went back into their service as a slave. It is important to remember that Ymir was still a little girl. Thanks to Ymir's incredible power, the tribe became a kingdom in a very short time. For years, Ymir was destroying the enemy nations of Eldia one by one in battles and building roads, bridges, and castles for the next 50 years. For all these services, King Fritz, now the first king of Eldia, told Ymir that he would reward her by giving her a child, and she conceived. Ymir gave birth to 3 daughters for King Fritz. One day, 13 years after Ymir gained his giant powers, during a ceremony, a soldier from Mal, one of Eldia's enemies, attempted to assassinate King Fritz and threw a spear right at him. Acting on his slave instinct, Ymir threw himself in front of the spear to protect the king and received a wound. That would have been fatal to anyone else, but was not fatal because of his giant powers. The king expected Ymir to take up the spear and heal, but Ymir did not do so, instead lying on the ground and waiting to die instead of using his healing powers. With no will to live, his healing powers were useless, and Ymir died exactly 13 years after gaining them, driven by greed. King Fritz refused to let Ymir's powers go to waste and to pass them on to his daughters. He had Ymir's corpse dismembered and force-fed to his 3 daughters, Maria, Rose, and Shaina. He told them that when they died, their own children would eat them like this, so instead of disappearing, the giant powers of the oath were transformed into 9 special and countless mindless giants. After her death, Ymir found herself as a little girl in a place free of time and space, where she continued to be a slave to King Fritz, building giant bodies out of sand for his descendants. Even in death, Ymir was not free. Such was Ymir's tragic story. And such was the power of the 9 giants that would change the course of the Attack on Titan universe. His kingdom, with the power of the 9 giants and other giants, continued to conquer other nations for centuries, so that the kingdom grew into an empire.